This is episode 5. I'm Jonathan. I'm a sales manager and endurance team manager, and I have Jimmy Kennedy here, who is a senior scientist. Jimmy, thanks for jumping on here today.
Thanks for having me be part of it.
For sure. So today we're going to talk through how to use InsideTracker in 2020 and beyond. A lot has changed, a lot has stayed the same, and our mission remains as true as ever to help you all take control of health and performance. So a couple questions we want to run through today, and as people are tuning in, feel free to pop questions in the chat. But to kick it off, what are some of the biomarkers that we should be aware of now more than ever before?
I think we definitely get some new light shed on a couple old school markers that maybe people aren't as flashy and things that people don't necessarily think about anymore. The first one that comes to mind, and this is not new to anyone, I don't think, is vitamin D. Especially in this current climate and what we're dealing with COVID-19, there's been a lot of research that's coming out recently that shows correlations between vitamin D deficiency and your risk to susceptibility to COVID-19. That stuff, obviously, this is very new research, so a lot has to be done going down that road. But the relationship between vitamin D and respiratory illnesses is a very well-established one. So that's definitely the first one on my list. The next ones on my list would maybe be inflammatory markers like your white blood cell count. Your white blood cells are your immune cells that are actually doing all the hard work and helping fight infections in your body. And then HSCRP, it's more of a general inflammatory marker. It shows systematic inflammation in your body. And then I think it's also really important to shed light on stress levels right now. So cortisol would be like the next one that comes to my mind. I think we're all our stress levels are very heightened right now, being locked inside of our houses. And so I think that kind of comes to my mind. And that can also, I think we'll get into this a little bit more later, but can be a marker for some other things like sleep and also like overtraining and some performance markers as well. And then we can't discount like other health markers that are always important for our overall health, like your glucose levels, your sugar levels, A1C, HbA1c, and then also like your lipid panels, like triglycerides and your LDL and your HDL cholesterols, because those are all markers that are, I think, very indicative of overall health and wellness, which is extremely important right now.
Totally. What are some biomarkers that are related to sleep? As you talked about, sleep is more important than ever, and without a commute, maybe some people have a little bit more time to actually sleep. What are some of the ways that we can increase that quality of sleep?
I think, sleep, to me, sleep is one of the most underrated performance enhancing things that you can do. And when I say performance, I don't mean just like athletic performance. I mean like life performance. It's like one of the most underrated things. So when we look at sleep, markers like magnesium, that's one of the first ones that come to my mind. Deficient magnesium levels can usually lead to like restless sleep, or maybe you're not getting the quality sleep. You might be in bed for a lot of hours, but you're not actually getting quality sleep. That's the first one that comes to my mind. Vitamin D again. You might hear me say vitamin D a couple times in this webinar, but vitamin D again is very important in sleep regulation. It's actually an intermediary in the production of melatonin. The melatonin is that neurotransmitter that promotes sleepiness, like when the lights go down and you start to prepare for sleep. So that's also really, really important. And then when we're looking at, again, stress levels like cortisol and even your sex hormones like testosterone and DHEAS, those levels can be very indicative of the sleep that you're getting. So we know that if you're not getting good quality sleep or you're getting very little sleep, those cortisol levels are probably going to be elevated. And then a lot of times when we see elevated cortisol levels, we're also going to see very low levels of your sex hormones, like testosterone in particular, and DHEAS. So it's really important, sleep promotes really good production of the sex hormones. So if you see those low levels of sex hormones and you see your cortisol creeping up, that could be indicative of you're getting poor quality sleep or you're not getting enough sleep in general.
Got it. So when I did my first InsideTracker test, my vitamin D was low, and I took a supplement and started sleeping much better, like pretty, almost right away. I was taking the vitamin D supplement with dinner, I believe. Is that is that when you would suggest taking it? Is there a better time? What should we be doing in order to maximize something like that if it's low?
Personally, I take my vitamin D supplement at night because of like what I just said of its importance to sleep. Um, but there's really no good time, whether you take it in the morning or take it at night, doesn't really matter. I just like to take it at night to try to boost my sleep there. But what is important is that vitamin D is a a fat soluble hormone. So it's important to be taken with fats. So like at night, if you have some simple carbs and maybe some peanut butter, like before you go to bed, it'd be a great time to take it.
Or
You
ice
can also
cream or
take it with,
something?
maybe, I guess we're trying to stay healthy a little bit here. I mean, when we talked about those sugar levels, you're definitely going to see those elevated sugar levels if you keep doing that. Um, what's it called? The quarantine 15. We want to try to
Yeah.
eliminate that, I think. But yeah, bottom line is it's important to take vitamin D with fats, so that it's going to maximize its absorption. So, but it doesn't really matter when you take it during the day.
Cool. So let's shift gears to the performance side of things for a bit. Normally, we suggest a fairly specific testing protocol, off season, mid season, end of season time frame. We don't have a season. We don't know
Yeah.
when we will have a season. What do you recommend from a timing perspective, given your expertise and background as a coach as well?
Yeah, so it's tough because when we're talking about, let's just even talk about training, we don't really know. Do we have a specific event that we're training for? Kind of doesn't, that
Right.
seems very up in the air. I think when it comes to training, we have to, athletes, performance athletes should probably keep themselves in like a ready state. You're trying to maintain your fitness right now. By no means are you peaking for anything because you don't really have anything to peak for, and you probably don't want to go into an off season because something might come up in August or September that you have to get ready for soon. So I think right now people's shifts are in that maintaining state. And what I've seen is a lot of shift to training for overall health. I think that's kind of been a big focus now, with no competitions to go for. And I actually kind of like to use the metaphor of like, you kind of still are competing a bit. Your competitor has changed. Now you're like, your competitor is to stay healthy, or you want to you want to stay as
Right.
healthy as you can. You're trying to fight off infections and illnesses. So like that's kind of your competitor. I've seen a lot of mentality go that way. So I think that's kind of been the real shift. And I guess if we're talking about testing, you should definitely have those daily checkups. I think we recommend every 3 to 6 months, to make sure that those levels of the biomarkers that we just talked about, that those are still staying in check, that you're still promoting overall health in your body, and you're keeping your body in a ready, maintained state in case something pops up on the calendar that you have to prepare for.
Definitely. You mentioned something that I'm particularly curious about, or is particularly top of mind. I really don't want to get injured. What are some ways that I can use Inside Tracker to, help
Yeah.
focus on that?
Yeah, there's definitely some really good ways. I was talking to Stevie a couple weeks ago on connecting through science, and I think that right now you have people in like two categories. You either have, you're not in the gym, you're not really able to exercise, you're trying to social distance, and you might be not doing as much fitness as you were. And then you have the complete opposite end of that, and it's, you have so much time, you have nothing else to do except run and do cycling, and you have a home gym, and now you're doing a lot more than you used to be. So two completely opposite ends, which are probably both equally dangerous. So when it comes to overtraining or overreaching, I think that's where people can really use the benefits of InsideTracker. So we would be looking at blood biomarkers like creatine kinase, ALT, and AST for markers of muscle breakdown. Um, at the same time, I spoke about testosterone and DHEAS before, but those are going to be really useful markers of overreaching or overtraining. If you're doing too much, you're going to see elevated levels of your muscle breakdown markers. You're going to see probably low levels of your sex hormones because they're not able to be produced with the quality of sleep and the recovery that's needed to produce the anabolic effects and the recovery effects. So the sex hormones are probably going to be low. And then one thing that everyone can check, and it's actually a really cool feature that no one knows that probably exists on InsideTracker, is monitoring your resting heart rate. So I don't think a lot of people know this, but on the profile on InsideTracker.com, when you put in your information, there's actually a spot to put in your resting heart rate. And this can be a great indicator of day-to-day recovery and how ready you are to train, to exercise, and how good your body is at recovering and preventing injury. So I think we all know that you want probably the lower your resting heart rate, the better. I think for athletes, the ranges are typically between 40 and 60 beats per minute for a resting heart rate. Non-athletes, the upper limit can probably go up to 70, 80, or even 90 beats per minute, but the lower the better. And the actual starting number is not so important. It's actually the change, the daily fluctuations that people should be paying attention to. So when we see your resting heart rate going up, it can be indicative of two things. And that's one, you're sedentary, you're not doing as much exercise as you should be doing. So your heart and your cardiovascular system becomes a little less efficient. And then the opposite side of that, you might be doing too much, you're under recovered. So again, your heart and your cardiovascular system isn't as efficient as it could be, and you'll start to see those numbers creep up. So those could be two reasons, and it's a really cool metric that everyone can look at. And InsideTracker actually provides some great insights onto your resting heart rate level within our recommendations if you use that feature on the website.
And more to come on that soon, right?
Yeah, definitely more to come on that soon.
Stay tuned. So you're a movement coach. Talk to me about it in-home workouts. What do I do? How do I get started? How do I make sure I'm doing it right?
Yeah, so if you're completely new to this stuff, completely new to strength training or exercise in general, just know that any time is a great time to start, but you have to do so in an intelligent way. So start slow and ramp up your intensity and your volume as you go. Do not try to throw yourself into these super long, intense workouts because that's how injuries happen. So start slow is something that I would say. I think body weight workouts are great right now. You have a very low risk of injury when it comes to body weight workouts. And if we're stuck at home and we don't have a home gym, that might be your only option of things to go. If you want to start to add some weights, I think I did a cool video that we can post in the InsideTrackers group of objects that you can use around your house for weight training, or odd objects that you can do. A backpack, and you can fill it with some textbooks or some canned goods is a great weight that you could use for training. And then also
Jimmy
to
used a baby.
I did, yeah, yeah. If you have one of those around, that also provides a great odd object that you can use. Um,
It was his baby, but still.
yeah, preferably use your own baby. You might get some weird looks if you go and try to take someone else's baby to do that. And I also say, get creative with things like a chair for step ups, or you can even use that stuff for dips. And then when we talk about time frame, this is a point that I wanted to talk about, was that if you do a workout and you specify a time, like I'm going to be doing this workout for 20 minutes and I'm going to do as many rounds as I can, that limits the intensity of your workout because you're only working for a specific amount of time. And then just a couple more points here. Right now with quarantine, there's been tons of pushes to virtual coaches and virtual training groups. So those are great options for people that you can get connected with good quality coaches and get some really good coaching and stuff like that. They're all over the internet. You can find reputable sources for that. And something that a lot of people are starting to talk about is when the gyms reopen and you get back to your normal training, if you were training at a high level before all this, is please, please, please do not assume that your fitness is where it was back before quarantine, and don't just jump back in and do things at the intensity and the volume that you used to do it, because you're probably a little undertrained or your workout's been a lot different for the past 2 or 3 months. So just please be careful when you do that stuff.
Definitely. One last thing, we have our immunity panel. Let's talk about that. How do we come up with that?
So what we did was we looked through the biomarkers that we offer, and we wanted to customize a panel and bring to our users and to the public the specific biomarkers that they needed to focus on, that were all backed by research and that all provide great insights into supporting a healthy immune system. So these are markers. You'll get included the white blood cell counts, HSCRP, vitamin D, glucose, and HbA1c. And then you'll also get insights, and we test cortisol, the sex hormones, testosterone for men, DHEAS for women, ALT again for muscle breakdown and a recovery metric, ferritin and magnesium. So I think we covered a lot of those earlier, and the importance of all those right now. So this is a panel that's all put together for you, and it's going to provide you great insights, our recommendations that are all tailored to supporting your immune system right now. And it's just a great offering to really focus on something that we believe everyone should really focus on right now.
Definitely. And if you're an athlete listening to this, by the way, that selection of markers is really good for athletes. You look at iron, vitamin D, testosterone, cortisol, magnesium, all of it's related to athletic performance and recovery as well.
Yeah. So like I always tell people, your immune system is a lot more than just your immune cells, and the actual fighting foreign pathogens and invaders. There's a lot more that goes into it. You know, your stress and mindfulness go into it. Overall nutrition goes into it. Your sleep. These are all things that support healthy immune systems. So this panel is definitely focused towards immunity, but it's things that boost overall wellness as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for chatting through this, and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks, guys.